Hey y'all, it's engaging time. In this video series, I'm going to cover each emblem ring in detail. We'll talk about what abilities you gain access to, how good those abilities are, and how to make the most of them. Whether you're looking for optimization or just big funny numbers, whether you're playing on normal, hard, or maddening, I've got you covered, and I'll make sure to keep it spoiler free. So let's begin with the emblem of beginnings, Marth. We'll start with the sync skills. These are what you get when a unit has the emblem ring on them, but they haven't yet engaged. The first one is Perceptive, plus 15 avoid when initiating, plus a little bit more. This one I think is kinda whatever, since player phase dodging is less relevant than enemy phase dodging. During player phase, you can avoid counterattacks in all sorts of ways. You can attack from range, use the break system, deal the finishing blow to an enemy, or just use an engage attack. So plus 15 avoid for enemy counterattacks is not going to make a huge difference. Now, break defenses, however, if you break the enemy, you get an extra attack at 50% damage. That's very good for hitting high damage numbers on player phase. Then we've got Unyielding. If you're at less than 20% HP at the start of player phase, you heal 20%. That's pretty whatever. A little better when you get it to higher levels, but it's not the main point of the emblem. Every emblem ring also gives you stat bonuses, and Marth gives you strength, dexterity, and speed. These are some of the best stat bonuses in the game, and you get them just for being synced. These are very offensively oriented, which is a running theme for Marth, as you'll find. By engaging with Marth, you'll gain access to these abilities for as long as your engage meter lasts. First off, you get Divine Speed, a free extra attack at plus 50% damage. If your unit is a dragon, this extra attack also heals you for an amount equal to the damage you've dealt, and if you're a covert, this extra attack will poison the foe. This is very good, just for doing more free damage. While engaged, you can also use engage weapons, and Marth's first engage weapon is the Rapier, which is, as you would expect, good against armored and mounted enemies, although you should keep in mind that if you're playing on maddening mode, you'll find that most bosses are immune to effective damage. At bond level 10, you also get Mercurius, the most important thing on Marth in my opinion. Reach this with someone in the early game and they can grow levels and SP twice as fast, but it's also just a good 12 might weapon. Marth also has an engage attack, Lodestar Rush, 7 consecutive sword attacks at 30% damage, or simply a 210% one range attack. It's a good offensive tool, especially since for a dragon unit like Alir, it's 9 attacks or 270% damage. Basically, you triple your damage output. This type of engage attack combines well with high might weapons, since their drawbacks don't apply. In the early game, usually Mercurius will be your highest might option, but later on you can use the S-rank blade Georgios, for example. These can just melt away an entire HP bar on a boss. Each emblem ring also has a divine paralogue during the mid or late game. By completing these, you will unlock bond levels 11 and beyond, and with that, new abilities. Marth's Paralogue can be very short if you want it to be, so there's very little reason not to play it. You will get access to bigger stat bonuses at level 20, better versions of his inheritable skills, as well as the engage weapon Falchion at level 15. Now Falchion is, as you might expect, effective against dragons, but otherwise very similar to Mercurius. The most threatening enemy dragons are corrupted worms, which usually are not weak to these types of weapons, so this isn't exactly a high priority. If you have a high enough bond level with Marth, you can also inherit skills from him. You can get Perceptive, Break Defenses, and Unyielding, which I've covered earlier, as well as 2 other skills. The first one is Avoid Plus, which, as it says on the tin, inherits some Avoid. Not too much to say there. The ones that give you the most Avoid are probably too expensive without SP farming or skill books. They're quite powerful for dodge tank builds, but for the run-of-the-mill units, probably not reliable enough to be worth a skill slot. If you're a sword user, you might be better off with the other skill, Sword Agility, since those skills cost less SP per point of avoid. While you have the Marth emblem ring, you can also put his Engrave on one of your weapons. Marth's gives plus 1 might, plus 10 hits, plus 10 crits, plus 5 avoid, and plus 5 dodge. Unlike many other Engraves, this one has absolutely no drawbacks, so just throw it on a weapon you're going to use a lot, and then forget about it. Now let's go over some good candidates and builds for the Marth ring, who has good synergy with the bonuses he provides. This section is for both good and fun builds, and sometimes those overlap a bit. It's by no means supposed to be exhaustive for either, it's just a starting point if you're not sure where to go with Marth. That said, if your favorite isn't here, feel free to drop it down in the comments. First one is Alir. the most natural user of Marth, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, since Aleer can use the dragon subclass bonuses pretty well. That said, every emblem ring has some kind of extra effect when used by a dragon, so make sure to try out other rings on Aleer as well. Yunaka and Zelkov as thieves can use the covert bonuses as well as craft an avoid build. If they can get on terrain without the help of Corrin, this might make them pretty much unhittable. Might not be feasible for manding because enemies will not attack you if they have 0 hits, but with some intentional sabotage of your avoid stat through maybe weapon weight or weapon engraves, you could get around that. The same applies for other covert units like snipers, but Yunaka and Zelkov have personal skills that have extra synergy with this type of play. One of those coverts could be Alchrist in his personal class, the name of which I'm not going to pronounce, but he gets Luna and that synergizes with Lodestar Rush, and each of those individual hits has a dex % chance to ignore half of a foe's defense or res. Tamara as a Picket can use Lodestar Rush in a similar fashion to Alchrist, except with Sandstorm instead of Luna. When Sandstorm activates, she will deal damage based off of 150% of her defense instead of 100% of her strength, and her defense is better than her strength in the first place. Now those are some specific examples, but in general almost any unit can use the offensive stat bonuses and extra attacks to reach one-running thresholds. So if one of your units is just shy of one-run KOing due to a lack of power, speed, or both, Marth could help fix that. So let's wrap this up. In my opinion, Marth has 2 main uses. First one is EXP and SP farming with Mercurius during the early game, and he just generally gives a big boost to a unit's offense. For the first couple of chapters, he is stuck on Aleer, so the dragon bonuses are what you'll see for most of the time, and those are good. Aleer is a good user of Marth for early game, though if there's anyone else you want to grind EXP or SP on, you should give them either Marth or Micaiah. After the early game, it takes a long time for Marth to come back, but when he finally does, Mercurius's EXP and SP farming is no longer as useful. However, Marth's offensive boosts are still there. Between his boosts to strength, speed, and dexterity, as well as the extra attacks he provides, you can still push units over the one-round KO threshold. I personally ignored Marth for the late game in my first playthrough, but looking back, it looks like I missed out on something good. So that's my take on Emblem Marth and his abilities, and now it's possible there's something important that I forgot, in which case, please drop it in the comments, or stop by my Discord server, Mecha's Keep, where I let people nitpick my scripts for these videos. Thanks to everyone who contributed, and thanks to Athena for editing this video. So please do the usual YouTube things so I can get a dopamine boost, eat, and/or pay my editor. Thanks for watching. Bye!